All right. Good morning to all of y'all. Welcome once again to Football is a Religion. Yeah. And I guess what, man? It's your host, the boy, Bube Simpatium Mhlaba. Right. So, wherever you are, if you're in South Africa, whether you're in Africa, whether you're in England, whether you're in Spain, Italy, France, Netherlands, wherever you are, man, please let me welcome you. Allow me to welcome you once again to Football is a Religion. So without further ado, we've already covered the UEFA Champions League as well as the UEFA Europa League. So right now, the third tournament that we're going to be covering currently right now is the Uefa Conference League, right? So we did see a couple of quarterfinal clashes here. We saw, Aston, one of them being, the one that we're going to start with is the game between Aston Villa as well as Lille of France, right? At the Villa Park. So look, we were expecting a game where it was going to be very tough on both teams. It was going to be a major test on the tactical displays of both coaches, right? It was also going to be a matter of, winning a game based on those fine margins, right? And that's what we basically saw right now in this particular game, because now, Aston Villa, they will take a narrow 2-1 lead back to Lille, right? Following their first leg, of the Europa Conference League quarterfinal at Villa Park, So without further ado, let's just get straight into the action, you understand, and unpack what happened, on the field, at Villa Park in Birmingham. So Ollie Watkins, headed Villa in front from John McGinn's corner, early on. And remember, McGinn's deflected shot early in the second half doubled the advantage for Unai Emery's side, on the occasion of his 1,000th game in management. What an incredible milestone for Unai Emery. What an incredible milestone for, the Spaniard. He's had spells at Sevilla, he has had spells at PSG, he has had spells at Arsenal, he has had spells at Villarreal, you name it. You just name it. And he has achieved incredible amount of success. He has won the Europa League a couple of times. He's gone to the Europa League final with Arsenal. He led Villarreal to the UEFA Champions League semi-final. So he has always, yes, he won the league title a couple of times with Paris Saint-Germain, So, this is a man of huge credentials. This is a man that is a tactical masterclass. You understand? This is a man that, has been on the touchline. He's a genius on the touchline. And I guess, Spanish coaches are geniuses on the touchline. Most of them, right? Pep Guardiola, Luis Enrique, including himself, Unai Emery, and you name them. Now, currently, we have Xavi at Barcelona. He's doing some incredible work, even though he has announced that he will be leaving, Blaugrana come end of the season. So, you know what? We're seeing a lot of Spanish master classes on the touchline, which even includes Unai Emery. 1,000 games in charge on the touchline. So look, that's an incredible achievement for Unai Emery, and congratulations to him. And congratulations to him. What a way of even celebrating a huge milestone such as that kind of magnitude. Celebrating a league victory. In a European game. I meant to say securing victory in a European game, at home, in front of your home supporters. That's always an incredible achievement. And on the other side, you look at the French giants, Lille. They squandered a good number of opportunities in the first half, We even saw Gabriel, Goodmanson's goal ruled out for offside following a video assistant referee check in a second. And finally, they had their late reward, through Bafoda Diakite's header. But it was actually not enough, It made for muted celebrations at the final whistle and awareness that the tie is still pretty much in the balance, but there's still more work to do, between both these sides, right? And look, Lille made a confident start, but the character of the contest, shifted when Lenny Yoro went down following a nudge in the back of Watkins, which looked expectantly at the referee and did not receive the decision. It invited the pressure that brought the opener eventually, right? And from that particular moment in time, we saw that came after another tumble, Ismaili throwing himself to the ground unnecessarily and which also led to John McGinn's right-wing corner curling towards the 6-yard box. And of course, it left the inform Ollie Watkins unmarked at the far post. And he was able to nod in the ball into the back of the net, with the breakthrough goal. And let me just say this, man. Ollie Watkins, I'm definitely sure he will be receiving a call-up to the England squad. And remember, like I said, England have got no excuses of not winning the Euro 2024 tournament in Germany, right? It was just one of those games where, you got what you expected. I was expecting a great spectacle of football, right? And I knew it was going to be a game that will be won based on fine margins. And it did happen like that, right? And yes, that goal that was scored by Ollie Watkins, back to it, it was supposedly supposed to settle the nerves at Villa Park. It instead seemed, to spur on Lille. Because 3 times they were able to carve Villa open. Like they were able to open up Aston Villa. And that came to my surprise, to be honest. It came to my surprise. But, before the halftime whistle, 3 times Emiliano Martinez was actually like a match for the man, right? Because he was running through on his goal. He displayed some superb goalkeeping. That's why he's the number 1 goalkeeper in the world, the best in the world currently, because he did display some superb goalkeeping in this particular encounter. And to say the least, Aston Villa have got the World Cup winner to thank. You understand? If Aston Villa are to advance to the semi-finals, which currently looks likely, based on the fact that, they still have the advantage going back to France. But if they do progress, right, to the semi-finals, the last 4 of the UEFA Conference League, you know what? They've got Emiliano Martinez to thank because he made telling saves. His contribution in this particular encounter cannot be undone and it cannot be overlooked. On the other hand, we saw Eden Zagova. He failed to find a way past him from an angle. And Diakite, I guess with Diakite should have done better after racing through from deep. He did so well to do so, but, he could have done better. And then also Jonathan David, appeared tentative in the face of the World Cup winning goalkeeper. So none was punished for Villa's high defensive line. You understand? Jonathan David, remember, is the Manchester United, academy graduate, And let me just say, this particular scenario where the French team did not take their chances, they did not make use of those half chances, right? It actually proved to bite them. It was very costly because Aston Villa started the second half much stronger and they might have been rewarded a penalty, when Watkins went down following a clash of legs with Benjamin Andre inside the box. And Emery did not have to wait long as his side were 2 up inside the hour, right? So it's that particular encounter where you see the fact that once you don't take your chances, you will be punished. And in a European game, you always have to make use of those chances. You always have to make use of those half chances as well. Make them count. Make every chance count in your favor because you can never write off any opposition, right? And yes, you look at coming into this game from both clubs, right? Aston Villa as well as Lille. There was a rotation. There was no rotation for Unai Emery, because he named the same side that actually drew 3-3 with Brentford at Villa Park over the weekend. Whereas, there were 2 alterations from Lille, a Lille side that actually impressed against Marseille last weekend, as Bafode Diakite as well as Gabriel Goodmanson replaced Alexandra as well as Remy Cabella, right? So there were some groans when Douglas Luiz took the corner shot and then Leon Bailey slipped while sending the ball in. But surprisingly, it just it was like that particular moment, it rolled kindly for McGinn. It was just it's a moment of fortune. You understand? It's just a moment of fortune and luck, because it rolled kindly for McGinn. So I guess McGinn was just in a right place at the right time, because his shot took a wicked deflection into the bottom corner and it provided some brief, breathing space. But, the away side just continued pushing. They kept on pushing. And eventually now they did get something out of the game. They got a goal. Even though they lost the game by 2-1, they still have a goal. So which still means that they are still well in contention to qualifying for the next round. But there was a scare soon after Goodmanson found the net. But The strike was ruled out for, offside following a tight VAR check. And then Martinez, had to save Aston Villa twice at the near post. Denying Paulo Fonseca as well as Lille's Portuguese coach appeared utterly bereft, by that point. But what can I just say? You know what? It's a matter of if you don't capitalize on your chances, as well as if you are complacent, you understand you will be punished and you will pay the price. So, both teams cannot afford to be complacent, and both teams need to actually capitalize on the chances that they create. Because Diakite is expertly placed near a post header from left wing, another example of Aston Villa's vulnerability from set pieces. Because now it has particularly changed, the complexion of the game, including the complexion of the tie, And Lille have only lost once. You understand? Lille have only lost once in 38 games at home. So it remains a quarterfinal that could go either way. So Aston Villa better be prepared for a stern test when they travel back to France, in the second leg. And I can say it was a difficult match for both clubs. What I can just say is that both clubs need to be ready for another 90 minutes, But when I look at on the side of Aston Villa, they just couldn't establish control of the game. They couldn't control the game the way they wanted to. Defensively, they have to do more work than prepared, because in terms of controlling the game, when you want to control the game, you have to control your game based on your positioning, right? Because you look at the side of Lille, right? Lille are a very good team. They are very tactically good, and Aston Villa have Emiliano Martinez to actually thank. He made some wonderful saves. He proved to be that last man of defense, that last line of defense, which was very crucial, And Villa now, that's why I say they owe their surrender, their slender advantage to the goalkeeper, because if you think the Argentinian international, has saved 3 goals, more than expected in the Premier League this season. So it felt like, he managed that in one night. And to be honest, Martinez, he really is a match made from heaven. He did save Argentina at the World Cup, so that's what actually makes him to be, the best goalkeeper currently in the world. But I must also say, the other game, in the Uefa Europa Conference League, the clash between, Club Brugge and PAOK, of, Greece, it was a great game, to be honest. It really was a great game. But there's this one player that for me, he stood out in that particular encounter. There was this one player, he's a Nigerian, Raphael Onyedika. Remember the name. For me, I classify him as the next Wilfred Ndidi. His style of play, his work ethic, his movement, the way he's able to assert dominance in that midfield, the way he's so aggressive and he's so powerful, he's so speedy, he's got the strength. He reminds me of Wilfred Ndidi. He just reminds me of Wilfred Ndidi. You understand? And for me, Raphael Onyedika, he stood out in, this particular intense clash, with, PAOK, right, of Greece. And now, the Belgian Giants have now secured a crucial 1-0 victory in the UEFA Conference League, at home. So let's get straight to the clash, right? The Super Eagles midfielder Raphael Onyedika, he followed up his heroic, Belgian Pro League performance for Club Brugge, in which he actually scored a brace. He backed the brace in that 3-1 victory over Anderlecht, with a remarkable performance, right? And now the 21-year-old defensive midfielder was the pick of the bunch, as Club Brugge picked up a first leg advantage in the Conference League against Willem Trust Ekong's, PAOK. Remember Willem Trust Ekong is the captain of the Super Eagles. He's the one who captained the Super Eagles at the AFCON tournament, which saw them reaching the final, eventually losing out to the hosts, the eventual winners, Côte d'Ivoire. But I must say, in a charged atmosphere, at the Jean, Bredel Stadion, Club Brugge, they wasted no time in asserting their dominance against PAOK. with Hugo, Velterson finding the net just 6 minutes into the match. And Vetlesen's goal, facilitated by a setup from, Ferran Jagler, showcased Club Brugge's cohesive play, setting the stage for an intense encounter. Brugge narrowly, I must say, with Club Brugge, they could have added, to their advantage, but they just missed out on extending their advantage before the 15-minute mark, with Maxim de Kruiper's, effort narrowly missing the target. Meanwhile, we also saw, Mbwana Samata, he posed a few threats for poke, including a header that failed to find the back of the net. Remember Samata, the Tanzanian talisman, the man from Tanzania, the talisman, right? The captain of the Tanzanian national team. Poke, from that particular moment in time, they actually struggled to capitalize on the opportunities. With Thiago actually emerging as Brugge's most significant scoring threat in the first half. And to say the least, it was a game that was pretty much in a balance, but both teams just didn't want to capitalize on the chances that they created. Yes, it was just a matter of that one moment that, was able to separate both clubs in this first leg encounter, in Belgium. And you look at the second 45 minutes, as the second 45 minutes commenced, both teams, adapted a more aggressive approach. You understand what I'm saying? They adapted a more aggressive approach. Brugge pushed forward in search of a second goal. But, the attempts from, Mikel Skoras as well as, Jagler, fell very short, very flat and short. Because Jagler, in particular, squandered a prime opportunity inside the 6-yard box. But to say the least, Poke, showed some signs of resurgence, in the final 25 minutes. But they really struggled to penetrate Brugge's resilient defense. You understand? And despite the late free kick from, Adrija, Zivkovic, and spirited runs from Samata, the Greek side, failed to equalize, right? It was just not enough for them to get that crucial equalizer away from home. But they are still well in the game. They're still well in the contention. They're still in the tie because it's just a goal advantage to Club Brugge. Now they're going back home, right? So it's going to be a very intense encounter in the next 7 days, in the second leg of this particular, quarterfinal tie. And to say the least, Onyedika, what a great shift once again from him, right? He won them a penalty, he won Club Brugge a penalty, to actually hand his team, a chance to actually double their advantage. But Thiago missed from the spot in the 78th minute, compounding, the Belgian Giants' frustrations. But look, however, they were able just to secure a narrow 1-0 victory. And let me just say, man, Onyedika, what an exceptional performance, man. What an exceptional performance by him. Because the former Michelin midfielder, he ranked above all of them. To be honest, he's my man of the match because, look, Let's think about it. Onyedika, he completed 100% of all his tackles, right? He completed 100% of all his tackles. He made 7 recoveries and he had 7 defensive interventions. So thereby, offensively, he completed 5 long balls and he had 1 shot on target. All of which, contributed to his game, and that's why I say he plays more of a Wilfred Ndidi. He reminds me so much of Wilfred Ndidi. No lie. He really does. What an incredible game. What an incredible player. And, just to wrap up the quarterfinal first leg of the Uefa Europa Conference League, right? So we're just going to head straight to the Czech Republic where Victoria Plzeň took on Fiorentina, right? It did result in a disappointing 0-0 draw. There was really nothing much to drive home from this particular encounter, because it also, even the scoreline reflects it all, it says it all, right? And, let's just take a quick recap, right? Based on what we witnessed in the 90 minutes of that particular encounter, What we noticed is the fact that Miroslav, Lubek, he only made 2 changes from the weekend while Vincenzo, Italiano welcomed back Artur back into the fold, alongside 4 other changes. Whereas nothing much, because there was only a shot from, Facundo, as far as I remember, Facundo Caglia, yeah, Ron Caglia's range that came close. Victoria Pleasant only had a shot that, Matej, Vidra, dragged wide, but he was probably offside in the build-up. So, despite the fact that had it even found the back of the net, it wouldn't have counted. And it was actually mostly just, route housing as like Fiorentina, kept 3/4 of the possession as their host actually dropped about like 14 behind the ball at all times. So it was basically a park the bus from the home side, right? And you look at even the second half. Second half, there was not much better. There was nothing much to drive home about this particular encounter because Fiorentina, at least, they made a couple of, semi-concerted efforts, to get the ball into the box, but it was mostly with all the immediacy of an obese and, a geriatric, dash sound, chasing a squirrel in the backyard. And the most exciting moment was like a bunch of idiotic Viola fans, throwing flares onto the pitch, forcing a lengthy break in the play. But yeah, man, I mean, it was just really not a great game of football, man. It just felt like a waste of time. But, hopefully they had their fun and they will get banned for life, from actually, going to the stadiums because it was just barbaric acts, it was just acts of barbarism, to say the least. And we don't need that in football, especially in European football, right? What we just need is to watch great football, see goals being scored, etc., etc. But look, it degenerated into a matter of ugly fouls back and forth, and there was no real action either way. As a spectacle, it was utterly without merit. There was nothing really much to drive home from this particular spectacle, despite the fact that Fiorentina had 10 shots at goal. Obviously more than the, Victoria Pleasant, they had 10 shots at goal. Only 2 of them were on target. And the fact that Fiorentina had like 73% of the ball says a lot about their dominance, but their dominance didn't really count for much, to say the least. It just didn't count for anything because, to be honest, they were really unable to conjure up some meaningful, clear-cut goal-scoring opportunities, right? And it's a story of that particular encounter. But what's actually next for Fiorentina is the fact that now they will actually be hoping for a better performance come Monday as they, clash against Genoa in the Serie A. Then they will obviously welcome Victoria Pleasant to the Artemo Franchi on Thursday for a match that will actually determine who goes through to the last 4 of the Uefa Conference League, semifinals, right? But look, maybe something will happen there. But, odds are the Czechs that, the Czechs will play their 4th straight goalless draw in the UEFA League knockout rounds and happily take it to penalties, perhaps, because if you look at their performance at home against this Fiorentina side, it tells you a lot that, they are just intending to park the bus. They are not intending to actually go for any victory whatsoever. So they just want to take this to the lottery because now, when the game goes straight to a penalty shootout, it's anybody's game. You understand? So it's no longer in anybody's hands. So that's the particular, narrative that has been displayed from the Czechs, despite those acts of barbarism from their supporters. But look, anyway, I hope you really did enjoy this video, right? And please give us a props up, hit a like, hit a share, and please click on that subscribe button, man. We'll be in touch pretty soon, and I've got more coming for you pretty soon. Stay tuned.